everybody, and welcome to the 2023 Fantasy Awards. Today is a monumental day in fantasy history, as we will be going through all of the nominees for the various categories today, and awarding few lucky winners. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm very, very happy to say that this year we are including a People's Choice Award segment that will be hosted by a very special guest. Yes, back from the dead, Green Daniel. Round of applause. Round of applause. Wonderful innovation. Incredible. Before we get into the awards, I must make one thing abundantly clear. Despite me saying this in every previous Fantasy Awards, some people think this award show is meant to be representative of the genre as a whole for just the year of 2023. And well, we have made some awards bent that way. This is instead a review for the fantasy that was consumed on the Daniel Green channel, regardless of what year it came out. Thank you for your understanding, and for none of the comments that will be left on this video confused about that idea. And for the first award of the night, we are going to be going back over a year of fantasy news to highlight the best fantasy newses that the fantasy genre newsed in 2023. That's right, the fantasy news that is on this channel is, some might say, the lifeblood of journalism today. The greats of the genre are desperate, grasping to make an appearance on this idiot's channel. And for that reason, we have a rich tapestry woven throughout the words of Daniel Green this year to look back on and pull the best story of the year. Kayla, would you please read our nominees?
And the nominees are New One Piece Anime, Wizards of the Coast v. D&D Fans, Sanderson v. Audible, First Law Movie, The Big Wheel of Time Reveal, Murderbot Apple TV Show, and Sauron is a Butterfly.
And the winner of the best fantasy news of 2023 goes to Wizards of the Coast v. D&D Fans. For those of you who may have missed out or forgotten this story, a quick refresher. Wizards of the Coast is the company owned by Hasbro that owns Dungeons and Dragons. They have operated with an open game license, more commonly known as an OGL, for basically as long as that matters. This OGL has allowed third-party companies to create their own games around D&D, utilizing their core rule set for free, which in return has provided so much free promotion to Dungeons and Dragons that they are pretty much regarded as the default tabletop RPG for D&D type adventures. Since this franchise though was bought by a larger company that's owned by a larger company though, there have been changes on the horizon that many people have seen coming, and this came to a head with an attempt to update the OGL that would have screwed over hundreds, if not thousands of companies that had built up around D&D and relied on the OGL for them to be profitable. There were loads of other issues with the updated OGL as well that would have even affected like content creation using the game of D&D. Combine this with employees from Wizards of the Coast coming out during this time and saying things like management within the company only viewed their customers as an obstacle between them and money, and it was a horrible time for PR for Wizards of the Coast. Again, I am vastly over summarizing something that had like several chapters of development, but the end result was the backlash was so severe from the fans that Wizards of the Coast backed down, reverted back to the original OGL, and put out a statement that admitted complete fault, saying they should have never attempted to update it in the first place. Back to the awards. And for our next award, we are going to be looking at a different medium for the fantasy genre. A medium that is as interactive as mediums come. That is right, we are going to be looking at the best fantasy games of 2023. That includes the likes of Baldur's Gate 3, the third entry in the Baldur's Gate franchise, that one role-playing game where you can have sex with all of your companions, and, of course, Karlach Best Friend Simulator 2023. And the winner of the Best Game of 2023 award is Baldur's Gate 3. I can fix Lae'zel. Now, before we continue on into the rest of the Fantasy Awards, I am honored to say we are going to be cutting now to Green Daniel as he goes over the Goblin Choice Awards for this year's Fantasy News. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 2023 Fantasy Awards here on the channel, which of course we're doing a bit different than last year because we didn't do them last year, and we're even going to evolve it from what it was the year before that. And that is because we are going to be including some categories that are People's Choice Awards, which I cannot wait to get on into. This has been an incredible year for fantasy with some amazing releases across all mediums, and today we're going to be doing our best to honor a whole schmeckle of them, just quite a few. Next year, I'm gonna have the polls up for a little bit longer, but for about 13 to 15 hours, you all voted on 3 categories, and we had over 2,800 votes cast. A pretty substantial amount, if I do say so myself. Though, yeah, next year I'm gonna have that up going for like a week so we can get an even larger sample size. So let's go ahead and get into what exactly those categories are now. Starting with the best sci-fi or fantasy TV show or movie released in 2023, followed up by the best book cover of any book released in 2023 of the sci-fi fantasy genres, and then finally your all's pick for the People's Choice Award for the best book released in 2023. Now we're gonna go ahead and start off these categories with the show and or movie picks. And because this is the People's Choice Awards, I want to show a little bit more love than to just the winners. So we're going to go over the top 5 most voted for each. Drumroll, please. In the 5th spot for the best sci-fi fantasy show or movie released in 2023, we had Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves with 125 votes. And with us putting over 70 different contenders in this category, the fact that the ones at the top are getting well over 100 votes still is pretty damn neat. And D&D Honor Among Thieves, while it wasn't my personal favorite, I absolutely respect and understand how it exceeded a lot of people's expectations. And in terms of being very true and honest to the fantasy genre, well, you can't get much more right than D&D. So congratulations, and now let's move on to number 4. At number 4, showing a hell of a response for only being out for a short amount of time, we have Blue Eye Samurai with 127 votes. I have a sneaking suspicion that this is one of the lesser watched things of the top 5 nominees, but the amount of people who watched it who then voted for it to be number 1 is pretty damn high. Take that as you will for this award. A brutal, subversive, and character-driven story, Blue Eye Samurai is maybe Netflix's best animated release this year, and is something that I have been recommending to people left and right, as well as containing one of the best protagonists I've seen in recent memory. If you're looking for a morally gray, very maybe villain person to follow, you killed them all. Congratulations to Blue Eye Samurai, and now number 3. Can you guess what it is? What are going to be the top 3 best shows or movies released of 2023 for these genres? I'm teasing you. Do you feel a little tease? Is it coming on in through? At number 3, we have One Piece, the live action adaptation, over at Netflix with 132 votes. This hit the fantasy community like a haymaker. So many people did not believe One Piece could be adapted into live action. And while there's certainly people who may not love it as much as myself, I think even the detractors of this story have to admit there is a respectable amount of the spirit of One Piece in this live action adaptation. And the cast of the crew of the Straw Hat Pirates seems to have just universally won over fans with their own excitement for being a part of this adaptation. It has propelled One Piece to even higher heights in terms of notoriety, which is impressive with it being already one of the most successful franchises of all time. And so congratulations to Netflix once again, and hell yeah, I have no problem with this being so high on the list. At number 2, we return to movies. Do you have a prediction? I bet a lot of you saw this one coming. It's going to be, say it with me, Spider-Man: Across the Spider-Verse, the smash hit follow-up to the smash hit that was Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Across the Spider-Verse has set up the Miles Morales / Gwen Stacy story to continue on in a series of movies that has won over and captivated so many fans of animation, and I have seen countless animation detractors admit that Across the Spider-Verse and Into the Spider-Verse both are some of the best superhero films ever released, and I was extremely skeptical, even after hearing how positive the reviews are for Across the Spider-Verse, that it could live up to the success and bar set by the first movie in the series. I would argue that Across the Spider-Verse is well more than a worthy follow-up to the first film, and I am proud to have it as number 2 on my audience's People Choice Awards list. But that leaves us with number 1. It's interesting that we've already had one show on this list that was heralded as breaking a curse, and that would be the One Piece Netflix live-action adaptation, which people said there's no way there could be a live-action adaptation of a manga/anime that would be great. This number 1 entry in the winner also was accredited for breaking a supposed curse, though that is more arguable depending on what you consider a good video game adaptation. And because the number 1 spot with 269 votes is HBO Max's The Last of Us adaptation. Starring Pedro Pascal as Joel and Bella Ramsey as Ellie, The Last of Us captured so much of what made that game's story special to its die-hard audience. It seems that many people do have nitpicks for this adaptation, but largely they do get relegated to nitpick type criticisms. Overall, this was a masterful retelling of the game's story. I don't think many people would argue that it's better than the game's story, but in terms of making it more digestible for a mass audience and a success for HBO Max as a whole, The Last of Us adaptation truly stands as probably to this day the best video game adaptation to live action ever done. And it is a sensational sci-fi entry with the presentation of a zombie type threat that manages to get under your skin even after we are over the saturation of zombie media content, because they are that disturbing, that gross, and I still cannot look at a mushroom the same way. Congratulations to The Last of Us for being the best show/movie released for the sci-fi fantasy genre of 2023, according to the Goblin Horde. But that brings us to possibly my favorite category of the entire People's Choice Awards segment. We have the honor of bestowing the best cover for any book, indie or trad published, for the sci-fi fantasy genres. I was afraid this might deteriorate into just a little bit of a popularity contest, but I was wrong. The Goblins showed up, looked through the well over 100 covers we put up in contention, and voted in mass. And I'm actually happy to say there was even a clear runaway winner that we will get to, because now we are starting off with number 5. The 5th best cover released this year, according to the Goblins, is The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi, with 99 votes. And yeah, I can't really, throughout this whole segment, just talk about again and again how beautiful these covers are, but from the bottom of my heart, all of them I am deeply jealous of and somehow wish I had wrote the story so that I could say this was my cover. A novel by S.A. Chakraborty, the cover artist for this sensational cover was Ivan Belikov, and designed by Mumtaz Mustafa. Not only does this cover have a brilliantly vibrant color palette, but the perspective of seeing both the sea monster and the ship it is ensnaring tells a story in itself, which I think so often we want from our covers. It's what hooks you and ties you in, so congratulations not only to the author, but the cover artist. Yeah! At number 4, we have God Killer by Hannah Kaner. With 134 votes, this cover art by Tom Roberts has a really unique color palette to it, and the focus on the deer with the nature around it establishes a vibe almost clashing with the title God Killer, which could go so cliche towards like the typical epic fantasy brah, that it's enticing. It's almost like a mystery, and I love that. I absolutely see why so many people picked this cover, and congratulations not only to the author, but the cover art is. And next up, we have a just as vibrant cover as our number 5 entry for a damn good reason. Receiving 150 votes, we have A Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon, with cover art by Ivan Belikov. With debatably the most epic dragon presentation of 2023, it just feels oh so right that this ranks high up. The way the dragon intertwines across the art, but still lets the title and author name shine clearly enough without feeling like the art is being obscured. It comes together to just be a phenomenal package. But that brings us to number 2. The only Sanderson entry to be awarded one of the best covers of 2023. Can you guess which of the secret projects made it to the top? Well, I'm not going to keep you in suspense for too long, because receiving 161 votes, the best Sanderson cover, apparently, of 2023 goes to Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, with art by Aaliyah Chen. If any of the covers from the secret projects were going to take this home, it was, to me, either going to be Sunlit Man or Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, and I'm very happy that this one ended up taking the crown. It's got a darker, almost dreamlike color aesthetic, which of course fits with the story, and seeing the two characters entwined in this spiral just helps convey so much of the feeling of the conflict and relationship between these two that carries the narrative of Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. I think it's overall an incredibly successful cover, and I'm happy that the Brandon Sandow fans managed to get a number 2 spot. But the number 1 spot for the best cover of 2023 released to me, in my opinion, goes to a little bit of an underdog. One that at first was a bit further down in the voting, but rocketed its way up in the later hours to absolutely obliterating anyone else in the competition. With 378 votes, the best cover for 2023 goes to Dungeon Crawler Carl and the Eye of the Bedlam Bride, with art by Luciano Fleitas. I just want to say, I'm so happy that the cover that won our best cover award has what looks to be, I don't know the context, I have not read these books, a playing card of Uzi Jesus and a spider monster with a secret agent cat throwing the cards. I'm intrigued, and because of this, yeah, I'll pick up Dungeon Crawler Carl in 2023. What an awesome win, and we went goofy, and there's nothing wrong with that, because it's quality goofy. This is actually art that just happens to goofify. But you heard me right, that means it has double the amount of votes as the number 2 pick, Sensational Goblins. I love that you all looked at the art and you chose from your heart. That's all I asked, and you delivered. Welcome to the end of the People's Choice, because we have one final category: the best sci-fi fantasy book released in 2023. There's no time for yucks here. This is flat out what you all picked to be the best book of the genre we love for 365 days. That's a serious thing. That's a big, big deal. So let's go ahead and slide on into the number 5 spot, beginning with the continuing of the Red Rising series. In the number 5 spot, we have Lightbringer with 146 votes. This continuation of the adventure of Darrow, bathing the stars in blood, was a sensational read. There is no doubt about it, and Red Rising continues to be probably the best ongoing popular modern sci-fi epic to be gracing shelves across the world. Pierce Brown is an author who not only puts out consistently, but puts out quality, and it's an absolute joy to be his fan. And Lightbringer was neck and neck for the number 4 spot, because sliding on into number 4, we had a book that I loved this year. One that made me an instant buy for an author that I previously wasn't that big of a fan of. And that would be The Will of the Many by James Islington. With 149 votes, The Will of the Many is the only book in the top 5 that is not related in some way to a wider series. That means on its own, it's propelled itself beyond so many entrants that already had built-in audiences showing up for them, and I can attest it absolutely deserves the hype. Truly having a progressive view on what exactly the sci-fi or fantasy genres can do, James Islington crafted a world that immediately feels bombastic and ambitious in its goals, but at the same time immensely grounded in the characters it's spinning for you. I cannot recommend enough picking up The Will of the Many, and I like this book so much that now everything else James Islington has written has been put back on my TBR after not loving the first book in his main series he was most known for as much. I think I was probably just wrong. I need to go reread that because goddamn, this is clearly an incredibly talented storyteller. But jumping up a substantial step from there in votes, we have quite the popular pick, and that would be, you probably guessed it as soon as I said popular, a Brando Sando pick from The Secret Projects. At number 3, we have the best cover, apparently, from The Secret Projects, Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, with 169 votes, telling an incredibly passionate story about two people from immensely different walks of life becoming tied through Sanderson's whimsical imagination. This is a story of two worlds, two cultures, and the individuals that were spawned from them. With communication, art itself, and what can be considered art so core to what makes this story special, it feels oh so right for it to be ranked so high in a competition among art itself that minimizes and reduces that art into a simple, soulless list. Let's move on to the number 2 spot, which is again a Sanderson pick, but the final Sanderson pick for this top 5, coming in at number 2 with an immense jump up in votes, solidifying it as the most popular of the Secret Projects, at least among my audience, well outside the margin of error with 330 votes. We have, say it with me, Tress of the Emerald Sea. Maybe the most whimsical story we have gotten from Sanderson ever. Tress of the Emerald Sea follows a younger protagonist moving through a world that is soaked in Sanderson's trademark world building and magic systems. Playing into the wider Cosmere in some minor ways, Tress of the Emerald Sea is a delight for Cosmere fans and for those who are just picking it on up, wanting a whimsical ride through a Tress Sea. It's not tresses, it's not a sea of Tress, but it's Tress of the Emerald. It's very, you'll get it when you read it. Check it on out. A lot of people are testifying right here that it's well worth your time. And yeah, I think it was absolutely sensational as well. I was a fan of all of the Secret Projects aside from A Wizard's Handbook, but seeing my audience give them so much love and after such a successful year for Sanderson of not just delivering his promised projects, but over delivering with so much additional merch, I can't help but say much love to the whole team over there at Dragonsteel, and I can't wait to see what projects you all have coming next. But without any further ado, we must name the number 1 book released for the sci-fi fantasy genres, according to a bunch of online dummies. No offense, we all know that's what we are. And that goes to a book that one might say has a fairly remarkable cover as well. In fact, you all would say it, because you all voted it to have the best cover of 2023. That is right, with a whopping 417 votes with over 130 books to choose from. Dungeon Crawler Carl, Book 6, The Eye of the Bedlam Bride, also won Best Book of 2023. Oh my God, yes, absolutely. As soon as I am finished with Sun Eater and Grace of Kings, I will be starting Dungeon Crawler Carl. No question. I mean, how could I not? You all picked it to be one of apparently the best things ever. And it also has basically a perfect rating for its most recent entry. Holy crap. I can't wait to start this. It seems like it's going to be goofy, and starting off 2024 with something that might have some Discworldian type, at least humor bend to it, I'm absolutely down for. So congratulations to the author of Dungeon Crawler, Carl, Matt Dinneman. I hope you're excited to see me review your books, and I hope you love getting some love from the Goblin Horde. And with this being the best book category, I do actually have an award to give to the winner. Matt, that is right. I am going to give you this very nice cardigan. If you're not my size, I'll just keep it. We can't really afford to make actual trophies, I'm sorry. But without any further ado, we're gonna go ahead and transition on into the actual Fantasy News Awards for 2023, leaving the People's Choice behind in the dust. Right after a quick word from today's sponsor. We're all familiar with reading platforms. The authors in the crowd are probably familiar with writing platforms. But I cannot stress enough how Campfire is like the one writing platform that is evolving to take storytelling to the next level by making reading an interactive experience in your browser. With genres encompassing star-crossed lovers to epic dragon quests, all of it is available now on Campfire. And the great part is, as you progress through these reads, you unlock supplementary material provided by the writer. This includes short stories, world lore, and so much more, so that as you're going through the book, you can either clarify what you just read or have a touchstone to go back to in case, like many of us do, you put it down for a smidge too long and can't quite just pick it right back up on again. My favorite though is the character profiles. I love being able to see like all the details of a character laid out so that in my head, it's like a D&D sheet. The platform is even set up so that you can save your virtual bookshelf and come back to with maximum ease. All built around supporting authors who will finally be receiving the royalties they deserve. Look at this percentage, way higher than anyone else in the game. And this is huge because I know how hard it is to get your foot in publishing today. And Campfire is providing a platform so that even the smallest authors can make more money on their stories. Authors getting paid more than anywhere else is true to what Campfire's mission goal is, and is why I've had such a long relationship with them as a sponsor. So go ahead and click the link in the description today and find your next read with Campfire today. I don't know why I turned it into a Naruto run. And we're back. Thank you everyone for participating in the Goblin Choice Awards for 2023. It couldn't have gone better.
Truly. I wasn't expecting something this magnitude.
You have a little something right here, actually.
Thank you.
Yes.
Appreciate that. Does this look like a hate crime?
But for this next category, we have something a bit more ambitious. We looked across a wide spectrum of protagonists that debuted or were just consumed by me in 2023 and compiled a list of the best of the best. Today, we are going to be awarding the best protagonist of 2023, and the nominees are
Hadrian the Half-Mortal from Sun Eater, Nimona from Nimona, Mizu from Blue Eye Samurai, Joel from The Last of Us, Juliet Nichols from Silo, Moist von Lipwig from Going Postal Discworld, Nomad from Sun Eater Secret Project, and Gwen Stacy.
Say Sun Eater?
Nomad from The Sunlit Man Secret Project, and Gwen Stacy from Across the Spider-Verse.
And the winner of the best protagonist I consumed in 2023 is Hadrian the Half-Mortal from the Sun Eater series. Congratulations to Christopher Rocchio. And how are you feeling, Kayla?
Yeah!
Now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to get a little bit more serious. We are entering the final 3 categories. Today, we are going to be bestowing a tremendous honor upon 3 books in 3 separate categories. The best science fiction release of 2023, the best fantasy release of 2023, and the best book of 2023. Now, I need to clarify just one last fucking time. It does not need to be released in this year. I know but if you would listen to the concept of the show. But we will be beginning this journey with the best science fiction nominees. And the nominees are
Lightbringer, The Sunlit Man, This Is How You Lose the Time War, Empire of Silence, and Howling Dark.
And the winner is Howling Dark by Christopher Ruocchio, the best science fiction book I read this year. And now we are going to be moving on to the next category, which surprisingly, shockingly, subversively, is the best fantasy book of 2023. It was an incredible year for the fantasy genre, if I do say so myself. We had so many things going on at once. Sanderson doing his year of Sanderson, Rothfuss, Martin, and the nominees are
Black Sun, Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, Orconomics, The Will of the Many, and Going Postal.
And the winner is I forgot what I put the winner. The Will of the Many by James Islington, or as he's better known by his true fans, James Easlington. Thank you so much, James. You won me over, and I will now be consuming everything you write. Now it is time to explore our final category and reveal the true winner of the day. There have been many incredible nominees, wonderful, sensational picks from a strong year for the fantasy and science fiction genres, but there can only be one. So the nominees for the best book consumed here on the channel in 2023 are
Howling Dark by Christopher Ruocchio, This Is How You Lose the Time War by Amal El-Matar and Max Gladstone, The Will of the Many by James Islington, and Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse.
And the winner of the best book consumed here on the channel in 2023 is This Is How You Lose the Time War by Amal El-Matar and Max Gladstone. For this category, we really looked at what we felt encapsulated the heart of the fantasy science fiction genre and what really made us glad to be sci-fi fantasy fans. And at the end of the day, what provided more than This Is How You Lose the Time War?